Am I the a-hole for refusing to lend my friend my house for her wedding, after she asked me for a paternity test, resulting in her having to cancel the wedding? My friend Sandra and I have known each other for over 20 years. We are 30 to 32. Sandra is getting married to Andres, and I am married to Ian. Some relevant information. Andres and I originally come from the same country, and even the same region. We share many characteristics. We both have very round faces, deep brown eyes, long straight black hair, etc. If you didn't know better, you might assume we are siblings. I met Andres 6 years ago and introduced him to Sandra. He proposed 2 years ago. I own a beautiful property in my home country that I was ready to lend to Sandra and Andres for their wedding. My property is like a finca and has 10 rooms. Usually, I would rent it out for weddings at a somewhat high price, but I was happy to give it to them at no cost, with the condition that they hire their own catering and have their guests strip their beds when they leave. The issue: 3 months ago, Sandra became more reclusive. She wouldn't answer my texts, and we didn't meet up. 2 weeks ago, she appeared at my door with Andres. They sat us down, my husband included, and said she suspected that my daughter is actually Andres' biological daughter, and requested a paternity test for peace of mind. I was so shocked that I couldn't say anything. My husband lost his temper and raised his voice, telling Sandra that she was being absolutely stupid. Sandra pointed out that my daughter looks like Andres. I explained that Andres and I look alike. She kept shaking her head, saying my daughter would look more like my husband and not like my exact copy. The evening ended poorly. I agreed to the test if they paid for it. The results came back last Friday, showing that Andres was not the father. We also did a test confirming that my husband is the father. Sandra cried and tried to hug me. I told her I didn't want to, and that I didn't want to be friends with her for the time being. She kept saying her worries were justified and made a comment about women from your country being more likely to do that. In that moment, I was filled with anger. I told her she could forget about using the venue and that I didn't want her in my life anymore. She started crying, but I made her leave. Her mom and she have been texting me, saying they can't find a new venue. I still said no. 20 minutes ago, Sandra called me sobbing, saying that the wedding is off because of me. Am I the asshole? Should I have let her use the venue at the usual price, or was what I did okay at it? Andres was not chill about this. He seemed exasperated. He was quite upset and basically just agreed to this, so she would drop it. I didn't include it because I did not see the relevance for the conflict between me and her. Update: they're no longer together. Sandra just wrote me in a mail apologizing and for some reason PayPal'd me €2,567. Anyway, thank you for weighing in. Am I the a-hole for disowning my wife's daughter after she chose her mom's affair partner over me? I, 35 male, met my now soon-to-be ex-wife, 33 female, during uni 12 years ago. She already had kid when she was 19, but the dad left as soon as she started uni. We were dating for 3 months before I met her daughter Lisa. I remember seeing her family for the first time. I was nervous meeting her parents, but when I saw a little girl beside her, Mom, I was confused. I asked her if that was her little sister or a cousin of hers, and her answer shocked me. When she told me that that's her daughter, I thought I misheard her or something. At first I wanted to dump her for hiding something so crucial from me, but she kept on begging for me to stay, and eventually I relented, and soon enough, I started to fall in love with her daughter and wanted to be her father figure. Our bond grew stronger over the years, and in early 2019, before the pandemic hit, we got married. In late 2021 I adopted Lisa, and in early 2022 my wife gave birth to our son Mark. After my son was born, my wife made the choice to stay at home for the time being, and I was completely fine with that. Everything was going perfectly until a few months ago. I started noticing my wife increasingly spending time with her friends. At the time, I didn't say anything since, in my mind, being at home all day probably meant eating at her, and I didn't want to seem controlling. The thing that made me suspicious was her constant texting and going out of the room for calls. She never did that for anyone besides this one friend of hers. I asked her about it, but she gave me some vague answers about gossip. The moment that took it too far, though, was when I came home last week and saw her outside talking on the phone. This wasn't out of the ordinary. I remember seeing my son on the floor crying alone. I was pissed at my wife for just leaving him alone in the house, but when I went to pick him up and smelt the horrible stench coming from him, I was beyond furious. His diaper seemed like it hadn't been changed since that morning. I quickly changed his diaper and rushed outside with him in my arms. I was beyond pissed. I snatched her phone from her hand and bolted back inside. I locked my wife outside to have a talk with this friend of hers alone. I had my suspicions about who it really was, and when I heard a male voice calling out her name and asking who was there, I immediately knew what was going on. He ended the call as soon as he heard my voice. I then proceeded to lock the front door to make sure my wife couldn't enter the house at all, and proceeded to screenshot as much of their chat as I could and then sent them to myself, before deleting them on her phone. About 5 minutes later, she was still banging on the glass door leading to the backyard. I reluctantly opened it and was met with a smack in the face. Remember, all of this is happening while I'm holding my toddler in my arms. As soon as she realized what she just did, she apologized profusely, started crying, and tried to hug me. I pushed her away and told her to meet me at the dining table. I told my daughter to quickly take care of the baby so me and her mom could have a quick chat. I just kept it simple. I told her this was her only chance to even have a sliver of chance of getting me back. If she fucked up this talk, it was over on the spot. No lies, nothing. She kept on trying to apologize and to say it wasn't that serious. I reminded her that she not only fucked me over, she could also have easily done serious harm to our son by leaving him alone in the house like that. I then simply asked her for how long, and did they fuck? She replied with her ex-boss Daniel, 6 months, and she didn't answer the last one. So I kept on reminding her that this was her last chance. She then just simply nodded. I then asked her if they used protection. To this she started crying and started begging me for forgiveness. She said she would block him then and there, would never contact him again. I could fuck any woman I want from now on, yada yada. I guess Lisa heard the commotion and came downstairs. I told her to go back up, but she just walked to my wife and asked her if I knew about Daniel. Up to this point I was calm, but upon hearing this, I swear even I started tearing up. I asked Lisa if she knew all along, and she said yes. At this point I'm full on crying, and I asked her why she didn't tell me. She responded with, because unlike you, Daniel buys me the things I want without having to beg. I then asked her how she could possibly do this to her dad. She responded with the "you're not my real dad" crap. My wife screamed at her upon hearing what she said. At that point I couldn't bear any of this anymore. I just grabbed my son and got into the car. Me and my son are currently staying at my parents' house. I've basically been drinking myself to sleep every day. Thanks to the saint of a mother I have, my son is being taken care of right now. And beyond her, I've canceled my ex-daughter's private school tuitions, all her extracurricular activities, and I've contacted a divorce lawyer. He is going to serve my wife this Friday. My wife and Lisa have been blowing up my phone non-stop with apologies. I simply responded with, get a lawyer and tell that ungrateful thing of yours to start calling Daniel her dad. I'm disowning her, and then I blocked my wife. I didn't respond to Lisa. I just simply blocked her. I guess my wifey told our friends what her and Lisa did, and now they have been texting me non-stop. They understand how I feel, but believe in going too far by divorcing my wife without hearing her out. They also keep telling me that disowning Lisa is definitely going too far, and she's only a kid, and didn't understand what she was doing. I just can't get over the things she told me. I've worked my ass off to give my wife and daughter luxuries I could have only dreamed of as a kid, and this is how I get paid back. Lisa, 13 years old, is old enough to understand that hiding her mom's affair is bad, and definitely purposely used those words to hurt me. But a part of me believes that there is still hope. A few family counseling sessions later, and we can go back to living the life I once considered a fairy tale. And beyond destroyed by this whole situation, a part of me just wants to see them burn in hell, but the other part of me believes there is still hope. Am I really going too far? Is there still hope? Am I the a-hole for disowning my daughter and divorcing my wife?